Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. We're continuing our reading of Friedrich Nietzsche's This Book Zarathustra. Okay. And we're in the section titled On Human Prudence. Prudence. Let's begin. Go ahead and listen to this as you're cleaning your fish tank, hanging out with your birds, clipping your dog's nails, whatever fun thing it is that you're doing. Okay? You're in the strawberry patch, you're taking up some cabbage, whatever it is. Bismillah. Not the height, but the precipice is terrible. That precipice where the glance plunges down and the hand reaches up. There the heart becomes giddy, confronted with its double will. Alas, friends, can you guess what is my heart's double will? So we have double will. This is my precipice and my danger, that my glance plunges into the height, and that my hand would grasp and hold on to the depth. My will clings to man with fetters as I bind myself to man, because I am swept up toward the overman. For that way my other will wants to go, and therefore I live blind among men, as if I did not know them, that my hand might not wholly lose its faith in what is firm. I do not know you men, this darkness and consolation are often spread around me. I sit at the gateway exposed to every rogue. Sitting at the gateway exposed to every rogue, so you're not like behind it, right? You're not using it as a protective barrier. I ask who wants to deceive me. That is the first instance of my human prudence, that I let myself be deceived, in order not to be on guard against deceivers. That doesn't make sense. What? That? But then they'll deceive you. 'Cause, what? That's a tricky one. Alas, if I were on guard against men, how could man then be an anchor for my ball? Well, if you're not on guard, then you're exposed. You're vulnerable. I should be swept up and away too easily. This providence lies over my destiny, that I must be without caution. What? That I must be without caution? I don't know about you, but that's not a good idea. And whoever does not want to die of thirst among men must learn to drink out of all cups. And whoever would stay clean among men must know how to wash even with dirty water. Ew. I get what you mean, but you're gonna get some nasty diseases. And thus I often comforted myself. Well then, old heart, one misfortune failed you. Enjoy this as your good fortune. This, however, is the second instance of my human prudence. I spare the vain more than the proud. Why? When someone is vain, so vainness, proudness, pride, is not hurt vanity the mother of all tragedies? Hurt vanity. But where pride is hurt, there's something better than pride is likely to grow. So when someone's pride is hurt, they have humility they learn. When someone's vanity is hurt, maybe that's just a huge self-esteem blow. So they feel like they have more of an urge to vengeance, maybe? That life may be good to look at, its play must be well acted. But for that good actors are needed. All the vain are good actors. All the vain are good actors. They act and they want people to enjoy looking at them. All their spirit is behind this will. They enact themselves. They invent themselves. Near them I love to look at life. That curses my melancholy. Therefore I spare the vain, for they are the physicians of my melancholy, and keep me attached to life as play. So actors. The gaze. So they enjoy people looking at them. I never really thought of that when it came to actors. which is weird because you think I would have. I think the art of acting and playing a role could be exhilarating for really, really good actors. But that is true that they do enjoy the limelight, don't they? They like the attention. They don't want the recluse lifestyle. And then who could fathom the full depth of the modesty of the main... Oh, I see. And then who could fathom the full depth of the modesty of the vain man? The full depth of the modesty of the vain man. That's a little bit of an oxymoron. I am well disposed to him, and I pity his modesty. It is from you that he wants to acquire his faith in himself. He nourishes himself on your glances. Oh, he nourishes himself on your glances. Talk about like so many women today who do adult content. And then you think about us Muslim women, we cut off one of the main dopamine hitters, which is your beauty. You cut off that allure, right? So no fake eyelashes, cake face makeup, no lipstick or contouring. It's all like the figure is supposed to not be as shown. No cleavage out, no mini skirts. Because the women who do show their immodesty, they get nourished and they vampirize on that male gaze. Nietzsche, what you want? He eats your praise out of your hands. He even believes your lies if you lie well about him. For at bottom his heart sighs, what am I? And if the true virtue is the one that is unaware of itself, well, the vain man is unaware of his modesty. Virtue is the one that is unaware of itself. That's a very... But... why? I mean, you can be virtuous and know it. If a woman, she knows she's a virgin, she has her virtue, she's aware that she's a virgin. That's one example. A man doesn't drink or use drugs. He knows he has avoided that vice. So if you know you've avoided a vice, you know you're being virtuous. This, however, is the third instance of my human prudence, that I do not permit the sight of the evil to be spoiled for me by your timidity. I am delighted to see the wonders hatched by a hot sun, tigers and palms and rattlesnakes. Among men too hot, a son hatches a beautiful breed, and there are many wonderful things in those who are evil. What? I don't know if I agree with that. To be sure, even as your wisest men did not strike me as so very wise, I found men's evil too familiar. Oh, I found men's evil too smaller than its reputation. Okay, so I see the contrast here. The contrast. The wise men, low to measure. The wicked men, their deeds were overblown. So an overblowing here. Overblown. So the wise man's intelligence was overblown. The wicked man's deeds were overblown. So reputation and its accuracy. So, oh, he's super smart, you find out he's a moron. Oh, he's super evil, you find out he's okay. And often I ask myself, shaking my head, why go on rattling your rattlesnakes? Verily, there is yet a future for evil too, and the hottest south has not yet been discovered for man. How many things are now called grossest wickedness, and are yet only 12 shoes wide, and 3 months long? One day, however, bigger dragons will come into this world. For in order that the overman should not lack his dragon, the over-dragon that is worthy of him much hot sunshine must yet glow upon damp jungles. Your wild cats must first turn into tigers, and your poisonous toads into crocodiles, for the good hunter shall have good hunting. For the good hunter shall have good hunting. Because he's good at it, so he's gonna have a good time doing it, and he's gonna get something to show for it. Verily, you who are good and just, there is much about you that is laughable, and especially your fear of that which has hitherto been called devil. I don't think okay, so to laugh at the good and the just, and he laughs at their fear, which they've been called the devil. Well, then if you can laugh at the devil in that way, then I'd say you haven't really suffered. Because when you see something so depraved, you can't help but mourn. The last thing you're thinking about is laughter. What is great is so alien to your souls that the overman would be awesome to you in his kindness. And you who are wise and knowing, you would flee from the burning sun of that wisdom in which the overman joyously bathes his nakedness. Mate, I would say that maybe the overman, he can't handle the cold and should learn to cover up more. You highest men whom my eyes have seen, this is my doubt concerning you and my secret laughter. I guess that you would call my overman devil. Well, your overman may bathe in nakedness in the sun and get his little sunburn and expose his nudity to everyone, but without armor, without protection of the fragile skin, you're gonna get yours. So you can haughtily expose your nakedness under the sun, and when someone comes to scratch you up and put you in your place and bring you down a peg, you can't really complain then. Alas, I have wearied of these highest and best men. From their height I long to get up, out and away to the overman. A shudder came over me when I saw these best ones naked. Then I grew wings to soar off into distant futures, into more distant futures, into more southern souths that any artist ever dreamed of, where gods are ashamed of all clothes. No, see that? Now, this makes me think of the Garden of Eden. In the Bible, it's talking about nudity. That the Adam and Eve were so pure and unaware of nudity that they were out naked, and when they got earthly knowledge and the devil had put in their mind, they put clothes on. But I would say that modesty necessitates clothing, and if you're not ashamed of your nudity and you're out there walking nude with your sausage hanging out, I would say that you're uncouth, you don't have good manners, and you're not very smart in protecting your skin from falls, insects, the sun, frostbite. How you dress is how you want to be addressed. It says a lot about where you're at in your life. So if a woman is in a bikini thong and her nips are barely covered, she doesn't mind that she's tempting all the men around her and women, and she wants to be the center of attention, and her identity is built on her sexuality. And a virtuous woman doesn't want to have the men buzzing around her and trying to pass her around like a blunt. She doesn't purposely attract the male gaze in terms of lewdness and provocative antics. But I want to see you disguised, my neighbors and fellow men, and well decked out and vain, and dignified as the good and the just. And I myself want to sit among you disguised, misjudging you and myself. For that is the final instance of my human prudence. Thus spoke Zarathustra. Okay. Human prudence. Double will. Sitting at the gateway, exposed to every rogue. So when he talks about being exposed to every rogue, then he talked about the overman joyously bathes in his nakedness. And then he said, gods are ashamed of all clothes. You're seeing of exposing that I must be without caution. So this is like no shield, no guard, not veiled, just fully raw in the present, and no sense of physical security or spiritual security, where you are taking chances both with the gaze and physically. A lot of nudity, because when you're at the gateway, you're behind the fence and someone comes knocking, you answer. There's something to this that he's getting at. Deception, sitting at the gateway, double will. When you have a double will, the good and the bad. Caution, being heedless, immodesty versus modesty. If you want to be clean, you need to know how to wash even with dirty water. But at a certain point, there's a certain level of dirty water that causes more harm than good due to the parasites within it. And in some very stagnant, dirty water that's filled, like is green, you swim in it, there are bugs that could give you a brain parasite and can cause you some serious harm. I remember seeing a viral post where a woman said she had intimacy in a swamp without protection, right? The swamp water got inside of her and she got one of the worst bladder infections that she'd ever had, and it almost killed her and she was in the hospital. The water was so dirty that they had intimacy in, and the bacteria got inside of her body and hurt her. And so, green fever, there's another one from dirty pools, gangrene, something, but nah, like, you gotta be so careful. There's a reason why, a shower is cleaner than a bath. You gotta be just wiser. I remember we had a small pool, and I would look in the morning, you'd see mosquito larvae in there. And I was like, I can't go in there. There's these creatures in there. Like, you gotta be so careful. Stagnant water is deadly. And if you look at the Ganges River in India, it's totally polluted. And even eating fish from dirty streams chock full of parasites, it's not a good thing. So there's a point, filtration, drinking out of all cups, I don't think so. To die of thirst, you can die of thirst, or you can die of a stomach illness, food poisoning. Like, you gotta, no, I don't agree with that type of example, because we know more about germs now. And then mentioning melancholy, the actor. So here's something interesting. So the actor wants to be looked at, and then he was talking about how the going to a place where gods are ashamed of all clothes. And someone like a whore who shows her body, she likes to be looked at. And she's an actor herself. She's pretending, like she smokes a blunt, snorts coke, takes pills, gets on stage. She becomes a character. And when women do adult content, they're acting. They like to be looked at during the act. But when the lights turn on and the music stops playing, and she has to look at herself in the mirror every night, she doesn't like what's in the black mirror. She doesn't like it. So, if she keeps her clothes on and does a job with dignity instead of being an actor who likes to be looked at and wants the male gaze, then she will do actually better things. And when he plays with, because he's saying double will, so the double interpretation of there are many wonderful things and those who are evil, it depends on how you see evil. Are you just calling them evil for trivial matters, or is there an aspect of them that's evil, but are they so evil that it's almost a wonder, right? You're shocked and in suspense and surprise. So there's something there, but true evil cannot be wonderful, because you can't have wonderful and evil as synonyms. You can't, they're not. Wonderful is something that brings joy in a way that is refreshing and rejuvenating without the negative connotation. The word wonderful isn't applied to things that are cruel. And barbaric cruelty that is evil cannot be said to be wonderful. Now, there's a difference between something being necessary in war that might be evil in regard, but one cannot describe that as being wonderful. Because when you describe evil as wonderful, you have not really understood what is evil and what is wonderful. You have to know how to identify both. To identify both is to understand the heart's double will, but you have to be very careful. And so, that cures my melancholy. Near them I love to look at life. They invent themselves. So, the bubbly nature of the actor, who can always put on different masks, but with someone who can wear different masks, they themselves have a double will. And you don't know if they're being genuine or they're putting on one of their many masks. If you think about Arya Stark, how she becomes in the House of Black and White, she's an assassin, and she has to be good at lying. So when she learns to tell lies in a convincing way, she becomes a good actor, and Arya does go and get attached to an actress over there in Bravos, right? And Arya was impressed with that actress because of how she portrayed Cersei, right? So you can see some symbolism going on here with the actor, deception, the double face. You have to be careful, you know. And when you see actors who are able to cry on cue, who are able to sing these songs of deception and trick people around them, that's not something that is always bubbly and used for good. And the actor playing a part, and then him feeling attached to life as to play, well, life is not all fun and games. You don't want to be too serious, because he doesn't want to stay melancholic, but you have to watch out. You can't be in Fantasyland. You can't be stuck as Peter Pan forever. Now, when he says he eats praise out of your hand, that's a very way of showing the dangers of flattery, of brown nosing, where you're feeding the narcissist compliments, and you are getting excited on receiving praise for your praise, right? And even he says here, even believes your lies if you lie well about him. So if you lie well, you get to have him eat out of the palm of your hand. And he'll keep coming back. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Do you see that expression? Don't bite the hand that feeds you. And then you read this, he eats praise out of your hand. Someone who compliments you, you're not supposed to be a certain way to them. When someone treats you well, you treat them well back. Treat others how you want to be treated. But if you're lying and you're treating them well as a form of manipulation, well, they won't. You see? The vain man is unaware of his modesty. To be sure, even as your wisest men did not strike me as so very wise, I found men's evil too smaller than its reputation. So again, that's a clever way of looking at somebody's been puffed up and others who've been puffed up in a negative or positive light. So investigation is important, but don't be reckless and without caution. He mentioned here, the good hunter shall have good hunting, and that his dragon and the dragon rider have this sort of relationship, which is very nerdy, especially since we have shows like House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones that talk about dragon riders and the whole mythos of what type of dragon submits to one and what type of person can handle the riding of the dragon. And so that's an interesting one to look at. And wildcats turning into tigers, because the eye of the tiger is it's kind of spooky, because if you see when a tiger stares at you and then they rock their head and their stripes, and it's almost like a hypnosis, right? And how they go for animals at the throat, at the jugular. Something about and how they are stealthy, they hide, and their roar comes right before the pounce, like right as they're midair almost sometimes. And then toads into crocodiles. When a toad leaps, they're leaping in the water to hide. But when a crocodile leaps out of the water, he's taking you as lunch. It's a big difference. And how they what is, when one moves, what does it mean? The toad, ribbit, 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 ribbit. Oh, sees you coming, goodbye. Whereas the crocodile and the alligator, lower, 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 going in the water, and then bam, they at ya. So, one jumps to get away, one jumps to have its dinner. The boldness of the crocodile versus the fear of the toad. A toad you eat. Crocodile, I've tasted alligator, but it has claws, so I guess we're not supposed to eat it in Islam, my understanding. But the toad goes away for survival, whereas the crocodile leaps forward for survival because it needs to eat you. You know, easy meal for a crocodile and alligator. And so that's an interesting example there. And then the good hunter shall have good hunting. Well, if you're the human hunter and you're hunting other humans and you're flattering them with compliments and such, well, that's something to look at. I guess that you would call my overman devil. It's very naughty. Very naughty. But he is playing with, I think, how some people call everything devilish, even when it doesn't deserve it, touching on his last point. And then, you know, prudence in relation to modesty, prudence in relation to clothing, prudence in relation to style. It's something to think about. Let me know what you think. A little sassy Nietzsche for us. He's always got something to say that makes us be like, hold up, wait a minute, right? Let me know what you think. If you'd like to support my work, I'm not monetized. You can do so by going to www.subscribestar.com/Milahan Archive. Hope to see you there, and like, comment, and subscribe.